Hello friends, welcome to my channel. I'm so glad you could join me today for another deep dive into history. Today, we're stepping back into Victorian London, a world of contrasts, complexity, and social intricacies. Imagine walking through the streets, where every conversation and every glance is calculated. Every move could shape your future. It was a time of tremendous change, but also a time when social status meant everything. So, stick with me as we explore what life was like in this fascinating period, where every class, every gesture, and every decision mattered. The streets of Victorian London are a world unto themselves, alive with energy. A city in constant motion. The air is thick with the sounds of the Industrial Revolution. A symphony of horse-drawn carts clattering over cobblestones. The rhythmic hum of factory machines, and the distant chime of church bells, marking the passing of another hour. You can feel the pulse of the city beneath your feet as you walk through the crowded streets. Merchants shout from their stalls, street vendors sell their goods, and the city's inhabitants rush about, each of them playing a part in this ever-moving machine. But beneath the energy and noise of London, there is a hidden order, a set of rigid rules that govern how every person interacts, how each role is defined, and how one's place in society is constantly reinforced. As you move through the streets, you notice that every glance, every word spoken, every action taken is a carefully calculated maneuver within this complex social structure. There is little room for error. Social status, it seems, is as much about appearance as it is about wealth, and the wrong gesture, the wrong phrase, can send you spiraling down the ladder of respectability. Victorian society is a place of stark contrasts, where the wealthy live in grand houses, insulated from the squalor of the poor, and the working class, in their cramped homes, labor away in factories for a pittance. At the top of the social pyramid, the aristocracy and wealthy landowners reign supreme, their lives defined by elegance, sophistication, and a strict adherence to the rules of etiquette. They live in the cleaner, quieter parts of the city, where the air is not thick with smoke and disease, where cleanliness is a given, and where social gatherings are meticulously planned to reflect their elevated status. The middle class, however, occupies a more precarious position. They are the ones in the streets, walking with their heads held high, but always with a weight of worry in their hearts. Theirs is a constant battle, an ongoing struggle to maintain appearances, to cling to the semblance of wealth and respectability. To be middle class in Victorian London means constantly balancing on the edge, striving to avoid slipping into the lower ranks of society. The expectations are immense, and the fear of falling from grace is ever present. For them, social advancement isn't just a matter of wealth, it's a matter of appearances. How you dress, how you speak, who you associate with, it all matters. The middle class invests heavily in keeping up appearances. They send their daughters to schools that teach the proper manners, the appropriate social behaviors, and the fine art of securing a respectable marriage. They attend tea parties and dinner gatherings, where conversations are not just casual exchanges but performances, filled with coded language and subtle power plays. Every word spoken is measured, every glance calculated, as though each interaction holds the potential for advancement or for ruin. Their social calendar is packed, and each event is an opportunity to climb higher, to cement their place among those who can provide opportunities for networking and business. But even with all their efforts, the middle class knows the stakes. One misstep, one lapse in decorum could send them tumbling down the social ladder. The poor, you see, are always just a few steps away. In Victorian society, to be poor is to be invisible, marginalized, forgotten. To be middle class is to live in constant fear of falling into that invisible void. It's a world of finely tuned masks, where each person wears a carefully constructed identity in order to protect themselves from the harsh reality of a world that values wealth and power above all else. And so, you move through this world of appearances, of carefully crafted identities, where every handshake, every smile, every word spoken is part of a grand performance. The Victorian era is a world defined by social structure and control. From the grand halls of aristocrats to the tightly bound lives of the middle class to the silent suffering of the poor, it's a society that places a premium on appearances, on status, and on the complex dance of social maneuvering that defines every interaction. This is a world where people are not just seen for who they are seen for how they are positioned in the grand game of social climbing. A game that they play not just for advancement, but for survival. As you walk through these streets, you can almost hear the weight of this social pressure, the hum of conformity that pulses through the city. The Victorian era is a time when every move, every choice matters. To be seen in the wrong light is to risk everything, and that is a fear that hangs heavy on every person, from the richest to the poorest. You can sense it in the air, a tension that defines not just the streets, but the very fabric of society. If you enjoy this story, make sure to hit that like button, share it with your friends who love history, and leave a comment with your thoughts on Victorian society. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you never miss a deep dive into the past. Let's jump right in. You find yourself walking along one of the busiest streets of Victorian London, where the hum of the city is both exhilarating and oppressive. The air is thick with the stench of industry, the clattering of horse-drawn carts, and the cries of vendors selling their wares. People rush past, each with their own purpose, each carrying the weight of their lives. But for you, there's something different in the air, something subtle, yet suffocating. It's the pressure, the constant pressure to be seen in the right way, to wear the right clothes, to speak the right words, and to always appear respectable. As you walk, you glance around. The city's upper class moves like a wave through the streets, insulated from the hardships of the poor by their clean homes and refined manners. But you are part of the middle class, that ever-present group walking the fine line between wealth and poverty. You are not poor, but neither are you wealthy enough to live without worry. And you know this: in the world of Victorian society, perception is everything. The difference between thriving and falling from grace lies in how you present yourself to the world. Every detail matters. The way you hold your head when you walk down the street, the way you greet someone, the way you dress, each of these things contributes to the delicate balance of respectability that is so critical to your success. It's a constant tightrope walk. One misstep, one slip in decorum, and it could all come crashing down. You can't afford to appear too confident, too poor, or too familiar with anyone outside your circle. Every conversation you have is carefully calculated, every smile deliberate, and every word you speak weighed against its potential consequences. In a society as rigid as Victorian England, there is no room for mistakes. The middle class, particularly the rising bourgeoisie, has a reputation to maintain. You know this as well as anyone. You've spent years working your way up, ensuring that your family is respected, that you are seen in the right circles, and that your name remains untainted. The wealth you have is fragile, and it must be protected. The constant pressure to prove your worth, to show that you belong, gnaws at you. It's more than just maintaining appearances. It's about securing a future for your family, making sure that your children have the opportunities you never had. You pass by a grand estate as you walk, the wrought iron gates glistening in the fading light. The upper class lives here, those whose wealth and social standing are beyond question. But even within this group, there's a hierarchy. The names you see on the doorways are not just for decoration. They signify power, privilege, and influence. They are names you strive to be associated with, because in this world, who you know is as important as what you know. You've learned this over time. The proper connections can make or break you. A chance encounter with the right person could mean a step up the social ladder, while a misstep could send you tumbling back down. Networking is as much a skill as any other in Victorian society. You attend dinner parties, tea gatherings, and social events where every conversation is an opportunity to position yourself to meet someone who could help you climb just a little higher. Every person you meet has the potential to change your life. But this is no ordinary socializing. Each interaction is laden with unspoken rules, coded language, subtle cues, and rituals of politeness that dictate the course of conversation. You know the importance of making the right impression, of appearing knowledgeable but not arrogant, confident but not overbearing. You've spent countless hours practicing the art of small talk, learning how to insert yourself into conversations without appearing too eager. You've perfected your posture, your mannerisms, the way you dress. You know when to laugh and when to remain silent. You understand the power of listening, of making others feel important. Because, in the world of Victorian society, those who can navigate these complex social waters are the ones who succeed. But it isn't always smooth sailing. There are moments when the pressure becomes too much. You've watched friends lose everything over a single scandal, a slip of the tongue, or a poor choice of friends. You've seen how easily someone can fall from grace. One gossiping neighbor, one misinterpreted gesture, and everything you've worked for can be undone. It's a reality you live with every day, and it drives you to keep pushing, keep fighting to maintain your place in the middle class. As you walk through the city, you pass a group of women standing outside a shop, exchanging pleasantries. They are dressed impeccably, their conversation light and cheerful. But you know it's more than just idle chatter. There's a subtle exchange going on here, an exchange of information, of alliances being formed and relationships being strengthened. In the world of Victorian society, this is how things are done. You don't just make friends, you make connections that will serve you in the future. And it's not just the women. The men, too, have their own set of rules to follow. You've been to countless dinners, where the conversation revolves around business ventures, investments, and the politics of the time. These aren't just social gatherings, they are opportunities to negotiate, to seal deals, and to solidify your place in society. You've seen men puff their chests, speaking with authority, while others hang back, carefully choosing their words. You've watched as men talk about business as if their lives depend on it, and for many, they do. The pressure of maintaining respectability is suffocating at times. You cannot afford to be too open, too vulnerable, or too honest. Victorian society is one of propriety, where emotions are hidden behind carefully constructed facades, and every move is calculated. You've learned to keep your personal struggles to yourself, to never show weakness, to always appear in control. But it is exhausting. You can feel the weight of it pressing down on your shoulders, always careful, always aware, never fully free to be yourself. Yet, as you look around, you see the rewards. The life you've built, the house you've worked so hard for, the children who will have the opportunity to marry into better families, it's all worth it, you tell yourself. The struggle, the constant balancing act of appearances, the networking and social maneuvering, it's all worth it. Because at the end of the day, you know that to succeed in Victorian society, you must play the game. You must fit into the mold, show your worth, and climb the social ladder, one careful step at a time. You step into the softly lit drawing room, the scent of fresh flowers mixing with the faint smell of old wood and polished silver. The air is thick with anticipation, and the hum of hushed conversations fills the room. As you move through the crowd, you are struck by the precision and care with which everything has been arranged. The guests, dressed in their finest attire, stand in small groups, exchanging pleasantries with a grace that seems almost rehearsed. It is a scene that would be repeated countless times in the drawing rooms of Victorian society. A tea party, a dinner gathering, or some other social occasion designed not just for enjoyment, but for the careful maintenance of status, relationships, and future prospects. The hostess, Mrs. Ashton, is a woman of no small influence, and the event unfolding in her home tonight is no accident. Every detail has been considered, from the placement of the guests to the precise temperature of the tea. Every action is a performance, a dance of social maneuvering, where even the smallest gesture could make or break a reputation. You can almost feel the weight of the unspoken rules that govern this world, the rules that dictate how one must behave, what one can say, and whom one must impress. This is not merely a gathering of friends. It is a ritual of connection and separation, a place where alliances are formed and futures decided. You glance around the room, noticing the women gathered in clusters, their hands delicately poised with teacups, their heads held high as they engage in polite conversation. Their laughter, though light, carries an undercurrent of something deeper, a careful negotiation of their social standing, a subtle game of dominance and submission. Here, every word matters, and every silence speaks volumes. The ladies exchange knowing glances, the kind that convey more than any spoken sentence could. As you observe them, You realize that courtship in this world is far more complex than simple romantic interest. It is a performance, a game with high stakes, played with the skill of seasoned actors. The men, too, are part of this social drama. You see, Mr. Blake, the handsome but somewhat aloof gentleman who has been a fixture of London's high society for years. His charm is undeniable, but you know better than to take his attentions at face value. Like the women, he is constantly measuring his words, his gestures, his very presence in the room. His eyes linger on the ladies, but only for a moment before moving away, as though he is weighing each of them for some purpose, known only to him. The men in this world have mastered the art of subtlety, often speaking in riddles or hints, using indirect language that keeps them in control. When they compliment a lady, they do so with an air of mystery, never fully revealing their true feelings. It is not the content of their words that matters most, but the way they are delivered. A raised eyebrow, a half smile, the slightest nod, these are the gestures that signal deeper meanings, understood only by those who know the game. As you watch, you notice how the ladies respond in kind. They are no less skilled, their smiles measured, their eyes casting sidelong glances that could mean anything or nothing at all. The entire room is a delicate web of silent communications, a dance of hidden intentions. But amid this performance, you can sense a tension, the unspoken knowledge that these social interactions are never just about connection, but about the securing of future fortunes, of matching bloodlines, and of weaving alliances that may or may not last. Beneath the smiles and the laughter, you know that much is at stake. And it is here, in the drawing rooms of society's finest, that the most important decisions are made not in the open, but in hushed conversations and carefully orchestrated interactions. You overhear a whispered conversation between two women, one of whom you recognize as Lady Huxley, an older woman whose daughter, Eleanor, is the subject of much speculation. It is clear from the way they speak that Eleanor's future has already been decided for her. Her marriage is not something she will choose, but something that will be arranged, a union negotiated between her parents and some wealthy suitor. You try not to intrude on their conversation, but the words linger in your mind. "I'm sure Mr. Montgomery will be an excellent match for Eleanor," Lady Huxley says, her voice low but filled with certainty. "His family has always been so well placed. The connections they have are invaluable." The other woman, whose name escapes you, nods in agreement, though there is an unmistakable hint of something in her expression, a mix of envy perhaps, or resignation. You realize that for many of the young women here tonight, marriage is not a personal choice but a strategic decision, made by the parents who see it as a means of securing both social position and financial stability. Eleanor, it seems, is no different. Her feelings, her desires, are secondary to the needs of the family. Her marriage will not be a romantic union, but a business deal wrapped in the trappings of love. As the evening continues, you watch as Mr. Blake makes his way to Lady Eleanor, his steps measured and confident. His conversation with her is polite but distant, filled with the kind of formality that suggests a great deal more is happening beneath the surface. He compliments her on her gown, but his words feel rehearsed, his gestures polite but not particularly warm. You can see the slight tension in Eleanor's posture, as though she is already aware of the arrangement that has been made for her. Her mother, standing nearby, watches the exchange with a look of quiet approval, the kind that mothers of unmarried daughters often wear when they see their plans unfolding just as they should. The courtship rituals of the Victorian era were not merely about love, as many might imagine. Love, in the traditional sense, was often an afterthought, something that came only after all other matters had been settled. The real goal of courtship was social mobility, securing one's place within a rigidly structured society. The young men and women of the time understood this well, and they played their parts accordingly. They understood the unspoken rules, how to act, how to speak, and, most importantly, how to avoid scandal. They knew that one misstep could ruin a reputation, and with it, any hope of securing a good match. As you stand back, observing the interplay of words and gestures, you realize that courtship in Victorian society was a game, a high-stakes performance played out in the drawing rooms and parlors of the wealthy. But it was also a deeply personal experience, filled with subtlety and meaning, where even the most innocent of words could carry a weight of significance. In this world, it was never enough to simply speak one's mind. One had to speak it in the right way, at the right moment, and to the right person. The evening winds down, and you can feel the subtle shift in the atmosphere. The guests begin to say their goodbyes, exchanging pleasantries one last time before stepping back into the cold night. As you leave the drawing room, the weight of the evening settles over you. You know that this night, like all the others, has been about more than just tea and cakes. It has been a carefully orchestrated dance, a delicate web of connections and ambitions, where each guest played their part to perfection. And while the music may have faded and the candles may be snuffed out, the performance continues, hidden behind the quiet of the night, as the true work of securing futures and alliances moves ever forward in the shadows. As you step into the grand dining room, the soft flicker of candlelight dances across the rich, dark wood of the long dining table. It is a scene that feels as if it has been lifted straight from a painting. The gleaming silverware, the fine china, the meticulously arranged place settings. You can hear the soft murmur of voices as the guests take their seats, and you feel an almost imperceptible tension in the air. It is not just a dinner gathering. No, it is far more than that. This is a ritual, a performance, one in which each participant must play their part carefully. You have seen this before in the grand houses of London, where social events are not just about pleasure, but about asserting one's place in the world. You take your seat, noting how each person's position at the table has been strategically chosen. The hostess, Lady Eleanor Ashford, is at the head of the table, naturally, her presence commanding respect. The other guests have been arranged according to their rank, their wealth, and their connections. No one is placed without careful thought. You are seated next to Mr. Blake, a man with a reputation for being both charming and calculating. His smile is warm, but you sense the calculation behind his every word. He speaks to you politely, but there is an air of formality about it. This is not a conversation between friends. It is a performance, a moment where you both must ensure that no misstep occurs. The conversation is punctuated by the clinking of silver against fine china, but the rules are clear. You must never speak too loudly, never draw attention to yourself, and certainly never disrupt the delicate balance of the evening. As you engage in small talk, you can't help but notice the subtle ways in which the women around the table, some young, some older, are vying for attention, playing their parts in a drama they have been rehearsing their entire lives. Their smiles are bright, their eyes downcast just enough to convey modesty, but never too much to seem distant or uninterested. They are performing the roles that society expects of them, always aware that their every action is being watched, judged, and calculated. As you engage in small talk, you can't help but notice the subtle ways in which the women around the table, some young, some older, are vying for attention, playing their parts in a drama they have been rehearsing their entire lives. Their smiles are bright, their eyes downcast just enough to convey modesty, but never too much to seem distant or uninterested. They are performing the roles that society expects of them, always aware that their every action is being watched, judged, and calculated. You cannot simply choose a partner based on personal feelings or desires. That would be too selfish, too dangerous. Instead, a woman must carefully consider the man who is most beneficial to her future, a man with wealth, with status, with the ability to provide for her and her family. As the evening continues, you watch how the women subtly position themselves near the wealthiest or most influential men. You notice Lady Huxley, a woman of considerable age but sharp intellect, subtly nudging her daughter, Eleanor, towards Mr. Montgomery, who is known for his vast estates and influential family. Eleanor, with her quiet beauty and modest demeanor, seems ill at ease in this world of maneuvering. Yet she knows, just as all the young women do, that this is the game they must play. She is not being courted for her charm or her wit. She is being courted for her lineage, for the connections she can offer, and for the dowry she will bring. The rules of courtship are rigid and unyielding. As a woman, you must never show too much emotion, never act too forward. You must always appear modest, demure, and chaste. A woman's worth is measured by her ability to maintain control over her emotions and her behavior. She must never be too loud, never be too bold, and certainly never be too independent. In the eyes of society, a woman who steps outside these boundaries risks losing her reputation, and with it, any hope of securing a favorable marriage. You know this, and so do the women around you. The men, too, play their part in this elaborate game. They, too, are aware of the rules, though they are often allowed more leeway. A man must always appear strong, capable, and decisive. He must be able to provide for his wife, to protect her, and to maintain his family's honor. But a man is also expected to be the one who initiates courtship, to choose his partner with careful thought and calculation. A woman's choice is secondary. Her role is to accept or decline, to ensure that her behavior never seems too eager or too desperate. At the dinner table, the discussion shifts to politics, as it often does at gatherings like this. The men debate fiercely, their voices growing louder as they discuss the latest developments in Parliament, the state of the economy, and the future of the empire. The women, for the most part, remain silent, their eyes lowered, their hands delicately clasped in their laps. They understand that their role here is not to contribute to the conversation, but to observe, to listen, and to maintain the decorum expected of them. A woman's place is in the background, supporting her husband or father, never seeking the spotlight. As the evening progresses, the tension builds. The guests, although polite, are aware that this is no ordinary dinner. It is a stage upon which future alliances will be forged, fortunes will be made, and lives will be changed. The women, especially, are acutely aware of this. They know that their futures depend not on their desires or their dreams, but on their ability to navigate this world of rigid rules and social expectations. Marriage is not a choice, but a necessity. And for a woman in Victorian society, the stakes could not be higher. The final course is served, and the conversation turns to lighter topics, gardens, horses, and the latest fashions. But even in these moments of apparent ease, there is always the underlying awareness of what is at stake. Eleanor, sitting next to Mr. Montgomery, smiles politely, but her eyes betray a hint of sadness. She knows that the future she envisions for herself is not the one she will get. It is a future that has already been decided for her long before she ever had a say in the matter. She will marry Mr. Montgomery, not because she loves him, but because it is what is expected of her, because it is the only way to secure her place in society. As the evening draws to a close, the guests begin to rise from the table, their laughter and conversation fading into the night. You linger for a moment, watching as the women adjust their gowns, as the men shake hands and exchange pleasantries. There is an air of finality to the evening, a sense that the game has been played, and the results are already known. For the women, it is a reminder of the rigid social structure they must navigate, and for the men, a confirmation of their power. As you leave the house, you reflect on what you have witnessed. The evening has been a performance, a carefully orchestrated display of social order and expectation. Marriage, for these women, is not about love or passion. It is about survival, about securing a future in a world that offers little room for error. In this world, every action, every word, every glance is calculated. And for the women, the ultimate goal is clear: to marry well, to secure their place, and to navigate the complex web of social expectations that govern their lives. In the end, marriage is not just a union of two people. It is a transaction, a means of ensuring that the delicate balance of society remains intact. As the morning sunlight filters softly through the curtains, you stretch and slowly awaken to another day in a world where every move, every gesture, and every detail of your appearance is a reflection of your social standing. You lie still for a moment, taking in the faint hum of the city beyond your bedroom window. It's a sound that reminds you of the world outside, a world that expects so much of you, yet allows you so little freedom. The world of Victorian society, where a woman's worth is measured by the precision of her appearance, the restraint of her posture, and the subtlety of her movements. You know that today, just like every other day, will be spent carefully navigating these expectations. You sit up slowly, the soft rustle of the lace curtains against the cool morning air echoing in the quiet room. A maid enters, her footsteps muffled by the thick rugs that line the floor, and she begins the usual routine, assisting you with dressing for the day. The first piece of clothing to go on is the corset, an item of such significance in Victorian fashion that it seems to carry its own weight, both physically and symbolically. You brace yourself for the inevitable tightness, the constriction of breath that comes with pulling the laces ever tighter. The corset is not just a piece of clothing. It is an armor, a symbol of your status, your beauty, and your propriety. To wear it is to demonstrate that you can endure, that you are willing to sacrifice comfort for appearance, for the societal ideals that demand perfection. The maid pulls the laces, her hands skilled from years of practice, and you feel the fabric tighten around your ribs, pushing your waist into a shape that is both unnatural and expected. With each tug, your breath becomes shallower, your movements more restricted. It is a strange feeling to be bound so tightly by something that is meant to enhance your appearance, to make you conform to a standard that seems as impossible as it is necessary. You wonder, as you do every day, how much longer you can endure this, how long you can keep up the facade, the role that society has cast you in, before the toll becomes too great. Once the corset is in place, the crinoline follows an intricate arrangement of hoops and layers of fabric designed to give your skirts the voluminous shape that is the hallmark of Victorian femininity. The crinoline is heavy, like a cage around your body, but it is also essential. Without it, your dress would be flat, lifeless. It would not hold the same power, the same elegance. You stand before the mirror, examining your reflection. The layers of fabric and lace envelop you, transforming you into a figure that seems more like a doll than a person. Your body is concealed beneath the mass of fabric, your true shape hidden behind layers of fashion. And yet, in this world, this is the only way to be seen to be worthy of admiration, of respect, and perhaps of marriage. But as you take a few steps in the heavy dress, the weight of it all becomes apparent. The crinoline pulls at your legs, the corset makes it difficult to breathe, and the sheer amount of fabric leaves you feeling more like an ornament than a human being. You can already feel the exhaustion settling in. By midday, the tightness of the corset will become unbearable. Your back will ache from the strain of holding yourself upright, and your feet will be sore from the delicate heels you must wear to complete the look. You know that many women, after spending an entire day dressed in such fashion, faint from exhaustion or simply collapse into their chairs, unable to continue. It is a common sight in the drawing rooms and parlors of the wealthy. Ladies fainting, their delicate forms collapsing under the strain of their clothing, their heads spinning, their bodies racked with fatigue. They surrender to the weight of their appearance, of the constant demand to look perfect, to remain poised, to stay composed. It is a toll that many women are forced to pay in exchange for the chance to be seen as worthy, to be beautiful, to be admired, to be considered proper. A woman must endure this discomfort. She must smile through the pain, hold herself straight, and continue to play her part. To do otherwise would be unseemly, even scandalous. But it is not just the physical toll of fashion that weighs on women. There is also the psychological strain, the constant pressure to appear flawless, to meet the ever-changing expectations of beauty, takes its toll on the mind. You often find yourself standing before the mirror, scrutinizing every detail of your appearance. Is my hair perfect? Are my gloves spotless? Is my waistline small enough? The questions are endless, and the answers never seem to satisfy. There is always something more to fix, something more to adjust, something more to change. Your reflection is never truly yours. It is always shaped by the gaze of others, by the societal standards that dictate how you must look, how you must behave. The pursuit of beauty is not just a personal endeavor in Victorian society. It is a matter of survival. A woman's marriage prospects, her social standing, and her future depend on her ability to embody the ideal of beauty that is promoted by the upper classes. A woman who does not adhere to these standards, who does not conform to the expected image of elegance and refinement, risks being left behind. She risks being seen as unworthy of attention, of marriage, and of the security that comes with it. The importance of fashion cannot be overstated in this world. To be fashionable is to be desirable, to be seen as worthy of attention, to be considered a woman of status. And so, you continue to play the game, to endure the discomfort, to put on the layers of fabric and lace that transform you into the perfect image of Victorian femininity. But as you step out into the world, the weight of it all feels heavier. The layers of clothing, the tightness of the corset, the pressure to perform it all becomes too much. The streets are crowded with other women, all dressed in their finest, each one carefully constructed to fit the mold that society has created. You watch as they move with grace, their heads held high, their eyes never betraying the exhaustion they must feel. They, too, are playing the same game, wearing the same masks, pretending that the discomfort, the struggle, does not exist. But deep down, you know the truth. You know that fashion, for all its beauty, is a prison. It is a cage that confines you, that dictates how you must be seen, and that demands your submission. You wonder, as you walk through the streets, what it would be like to walk freely, to dress without the burden of expectations, to be yourself without the weight of the world pressing down on you. But for now, you know that this is the price you must pay. You must continue to endure, to perform, to sacrifice your comfort for the sake of appearances. Because in this world, appearances are everything. And if you want to survive, if you want to find your place, you must conform. You must wear the corset, the crinoline, the gloves, and the layers of expectation. And you must wear them well. The sound of your alarm is distant, barely cutting through the thick fog of sleep. You stir from your straw mattress, the coarse fabric scratching your skin as you sit up. The room is cold, and the light from the small, grimy window offers little comfort. You glance around, taking in the bare, almost barren walls. There's nothing here that belongs to you, no soft comforts, no personal touches. Just the small cot that's been yours for the past few months, the only space you can call your own in this cramped attic room. You can hear the faint rustle of other servants stirring in their own rooms, far down the hall, in the dim, narrow corridors of the servants' quarters. As you pull yourself from the bed and stand, your feet meet the cold floor. It's chill crawling up through your thin shoes. You are already dressed in the same coarse black and white uniform you've worn every day since you started working here. There is no time for luxury, no time for comfort. Your morning routine is a blur of tasks, each one more exhausting than the last. You are already behind. You have barely enough time to wash your face in the cold, hard water from the shared wash basin, to run a cloth over your face and neck, to brush your tangled hair into something passable. There's no time to dawdle, no time for anything other than work. As you descend the narrow stairs to the kitchen, you are greeted by the musty scent of old wood and lingering grease, the smell of a house that is far too big for the few of you who are left to clean it. The fire in the hearth is already roaring, and you can hear the soft sizzle of something cooking in the oven, a sign that the family you serve is already up and beginning their day. You don't have the luxury of sitting down to eat, though. Your breakfast will come later, if you are lucky, once your work is done and the house is prepared for another day. Your first task is the sweeping, the endless sweeping of the grand hallways, the staircases, the rooms where the family will sit, eat, and entertain. The dust seems to settle in every corner, and you wonder, as you always do, if it will ever end. The sheer size of the house is overwhelming. The grandeur of it makes your legs ache and your back ache with every step. You will be cleaning these floors, scrubbing the windows, polishing the silver, setting the table, and running errands for hours upon hours with little reprieve. The sun may rise, and it may set, but in your world, there is no escape from the cycle of labor. The day drags on, each hour filled with the rhythmic repetition of tasks that never seem to end. You move from room to room, from task to task, all while hearing the muffled conversations of the family members as they sit down to breakfast in the dining room. You cannot enter their world, not unless you are called, and even then, you must maintain the utmost distance, speaking only when spoken to, and never forgetting your place. You are not to be seen, not to be heard, unless it is necessary for the household to function smoothly. Your job is to remain invisible, to remain in the background, working silently and without complaint. The kitchen is where you feel the heat of the day most. The fire that roars in the hearth burns bright and fierce, making it nearly unbearable to stand too close for long. You spend the hours cooking, stirring, chopping, slicing, and preparing food for the family and their guests. The work is backbreaking, and you can feel the sweat bead on your forehead as you bend over the stove, lifting heavy pots and pans. Your arms ache from the constant motion, and your fingers burn from handling the hot utensils. There is no time to rest, no time to sit down. You move, constantly moving, like a machine, until the tasks are completed and the table is set. Then, and only then, can you steal a moment to catch your breath, to steal a bite of whatever scraps have been left over. If you're lucky, there will be some bread, perhaps some cheese, and a bit of soup. But most days, it's nothing more than the leftovers from the previous night's meal, unseasoned and unappetizing. As the day stretches on, you can feel your body growing more and more fatigued. Your feet ache, your legs tremble, and your back is sore from bending and lifting. But you cannot stop. You cannot afford to stop. There are still rooms to be cleaned, still laundry to be washed, still floors to be scrubbed. The work never stops, and the demands only grow. You know that tonight, after the family has retired to their quarters, you will be expected to sit with the other servants in the kitchen and finish the menial tasks that remain: scrubbing pots and pans, folding linens, and mending clothes. There is never time to rest, never time to relax. By the time the evening draws near, the exhaustion has settled into your bones. Your eyelids feel heavy, your body stiff and sore from hours of labor. You glance at the clock and see that it is nearly time to serve dinner, but there is still so much left to do. The grand dining room must be prepared, the table set with precision and care, the glasses polished and the silverware arranged just so. You are only allowed a brief moment to rest when the family gathers for their meal, but even then, you must remain on alert, ready to jump into action if needed. And so, the evening unfolds in the same monotonous rhythm as the rest of the day. The family eats their meal, their conversation flowing freely, while you serve, stand silently, and wait. You are there, but not truly present. You exist in the background, unnoticed and unheard. Your only role to make sure everything runs smoothly. The idea of personal freedom, of leisure, seems like something distant and unattainable. You cannot imagine a life outside of this routine. A life where you could relax, where you could enjoy the simple pleasures that those in the family enjoy every day. When the evening ends and the last of the plates are cleared away, you return to your quarters, your small room at the top of the stairs, and you collapse onto your cot. You are bone weary, your muscles sore, your feet swollen and blistered from the long hours spent standing and walking. You lie still for a moment, feeling the weight of the day pressing down on you. The house, so large and imposing, feels even more oppressive in the silence of the night. You know that tomorrow will be the same as today, filled with tasks that never seem to end, a constant cycle of labor that leaves little room for anything else. The divide between you and the family you serve is vast, a chasm that cannot be crossed. They live in their grand rooms, with their soft beds and their comfortable meals, while you live in the cramped, poorly ventilated quarters of the servants' wing, where the air is stale and the rooms are cold. The food they eat is rich and flavorful, while you subsist on scraps and leftovers. Their lives are filled with social gatherings, with laughter and conversation, while yours is filled with endless work, with the knowledge that your life is one of servitude, your time not your own. You are invisible, a cog in a machine that never stops turning. Your labor is the foundation on which their comfort rests, yet it is so easily overlooked. You are seen as nothing more than a servant, a figure whose only worth is in how well you perform your tasks. Your days blend together, each one a reflection of the last, a never-ending cycle of labor and exhaustion. You wonder, as you lie in your bed at night, if anyone even sees you at all. Does the family notice the toll their demands take on you? Do they see the exhaustion in your eyes, the weariness in your bones? Or are you nothing more than a shadow, an invisible presence that simply fades into the background of their lives? Tomorrow, you will wake again, and the cycle will begin anew. The work will continue, the demands will grow, and you will be left to toil, unseen and unheard, in the quiet, unacknowledged spaces of the household. And so, you endure, as you always have, with no choice but to continue on in your role, performing your invisible labor for those who will never understand what it truly costs. You awake early, the soft light of dawn creeping through the curtains, marking the beginning of another day, one that will be no different from the others. You pause for a moment, your thoughts lingering in the stillness. There is a heaviness in your chest, an invisible weight that presses down on you even before you leave your bed. You know what the day will demand, what it will require of you, the constant balancing act, the endless dance between what is expected and what you long to be. It is a performance you know all too well, but it never becomes easier. Every movement, every word, every glance is measured, calculated, as though your entire existence hinges on maintaining the perfect facade. You are not allowed to falter, to show weakness, to be anything other than the ideal version of yourself that society demands. You stand slowly, stretching your arms above your head, feeling the stiffness in your shoulders and the dull ache in your back. The weight of the corset you will soon wear presses on your mind, even before it presses on your body. It is a daily ritual, a binding that shapes your appearance but also your very sense of self. As you dress, you realize that your body has learned to contort itself in unnatural ways, your ribs compressed and your posture rigid. Your every movement is a performance, one where any misstep might expose the cracks in the perfectly curated image you are expected to present. You know that, in this world, nothing is more important than appearances, how you look, how you behave, how you are seen by others. There is little room for vulnerability, little space for the real you to exist outside of the image you have created for the world. As you move through the house, you catch a glimpse of your reflection in a passing mirror, and for a moment, you feel a jolt of disconnection. Is that truly you, the person staring back at you, encased in layers of fabric, corset, and social expectation? Or is it just the version of yourself that has been molded to fit the contours of society's rigid demands? You wonder if anyone ever truly sees you, if anyone ever looks beyond the polished exterior to the tired, strained individual hidden beneath. But you push the thought away, for such musings are dangerous. In this world, to appear uncertain is to invite judgment. And so, you smile, fix your posture, and carry on. You move into the grand drawing room, where the family gathers for breakfast. The atmosphere is a mixture of civility and constraint, the polite chatter covering the unspoken pressures that hang in the air. The family members speak with carefully measured tones, their words as calculated as the arrangement of the silverware. You notice how they move through the room, never too quick, never too slow, as though every gesture is under scrutiny. You have learned over time that in this world, your actions, however small, speak volumes. It is not enough to merely be, you must be seen to be perfect, to fit within the narrow, suffocating confines of societal expectations. As you serve the breakfast, you cannot help but notice how every woman in the room, from the eldest to the youngest, carries herself with the same precision, the same controlled elegance. Their smiles are soft, their movements graceful, but there is something behind their eyes, a weariness, a resignation. You wonder if they, too, feel the invisible weight of the world pressing down on them, urging them to be something they may never truly be. The expectation to be flawless is suffocating, and the constant effort to meet that expectation leaves little room for anything else. It is as though the very act of existing requires a kind of performance, a daily act of pretending that everything is in order, that all is well, when inside there are cracks, silent and unseen, slowly spreading. You notice the men of the household, too, moving with a similar air of precision. Their actions are deliberate, their words measured. They are expected to maintain their strength, their authority, and their composure at all times. The emotional labor that they carry is just as heavy, though it is often hidden beneath layers of stoic expression. The pressure to be strong, to provide, to lead without showing any sign of weakness is constant. The men, too, are caught in this trap, an invisible cage that holds them to a rigid standard of behavior that allows for no deviation. They are not allowed to cry, to falter, to show any hint of doubt. To do so would be to risk losing the respect and admiration of their peers. to be seen as less than what society demands them to be. And so, like the women, they too wear a mask, one that hides the vulnerability they are not allowed to express. You feel the shift in the atmosphere as the day moves on. The pressure to maintain the perfect image never wanes. You begin to sense the emotional toll that comes with it, the exhaustion that settles into your bones, the weight that hangs over your heart. It's not just the physical strain, though that too is immense. It is the constant emotional labor, the need to perform for others, to be what is expected, to be seen as always in control, always poised, always calm. Every misstep feels like a failure, every moment of weakness like a crack in the armor that protects you from the world's judgment. You take a deep breath as you move through the day's duties, silently going through the motions. You serve, you clean, you converse, all while maintaining that ever-present smile, the one that says, "I am fine, I am in control, I am the ideal woman." But inside, you can feel the cracks widening, the strain becoming harder to bear. You wonder in fleeting moments when you allow yourself to think, what would it be like to just let go, to throw aside the corset, the crinoline, the masks, and simply be yourself? But you know better than to entertain such thoughts. To do so would be to risk everything. The dinner is a similar affair, with each action, each word, each gesture performed with the same precision as the day before. The room is filled with laughter, with polite conversation, but you can see it in their eyes, the same exhaustion, the same unspoken understanding that none of this is real, that this world is built on appearances, on keeping up the facade. The pressure to conform to these expectations weighs on everyone in the room, though it is more visible on the women. The men may hide their strain behind their rigid masks of authority, but the women wear their fatigue in the sag of their shoulders, the faint tremor in their hands, the silent sighs that they think no one hears. As the evening draws to a close and the guests begin to leave, you retreat to your room, feeling the emotional and physical toll of the day pressing down on you. The exhaustion is overwhelming. You collapse onto your bed, your body aching, your mind racing with the endless demands of the day. You wish, for just a moment, that you could escape from it all, escape from the performance, the mask, the constant pressure to be something you are not. But you know that tomorrow, just like today, you will rise and do it all over again. Because in this world, there is no room for weakness, no room for vulnerability. To show yourself as you truly are is to risk being discarded, forgotten, invisible. And so, you close your eyes and sleep, knowing that tomorrow will bring the same expectations, the same unrelenting pressure to conform. You can only hope that, somehow, in the midst of it all, you will find a way to breathe. The morning air is crisp, sharp against your face as you walk through the narrow streets that wind their way between towering buildings. The clatter of carts on cobblestone roads and the murmur of voices in the distance fill the space around you, but you feel strangely distant from it all. As you pull your shawl tighter around your shoulders, the weight of the day ahead presses on you. Another day of work, another day spent trying to carve out a space for yourself in a world that seems to exist on a different plane. A world of power and privilege that feels just beyond your reach. You are part of the working class, and the struggle to survive is a constant companion. Every step you take through these crowded streets is a reminder of your place in this rigid, unyielding social structure. You know the rules, at least, the ones that matter to you. Work hard, stay quiet, and never, under any circumstances, make waves. The slightest misstep, the smallest error, could be enough to push you back into the shadows, to remind you of your place. Your job, like most others in your position, is physical. The long hours spent toiling in the factory, the endless tasks that seem to pile up faster than you can manage. You are surrounded by others who, like you, are working themselves into the ground for a few shillings at the end of the week. You see the same tired faces every day, the same weary eyes, but there is no comfort in their shared experience. The pressure to survive is unrelenting. The factory owner, the man who lives in a house so large it feels like an entire town, cares nothing for the struggles you face. To him, you are just another cog in the machine, another body to fill the need for labor, and so you endure. Every day is a battle to maintain your dignity, to hold on to a small sliver of hope that one day things might improve. But deep down, you know the truth. the chances of rising above your station are slim. The system is built to keep you in place, to make sure that people like you stay where they belong. It's a silent agreement, one that everyone seems to follow without question. You work, you earn your meager wages, and you go home to your cramped living quarters, where you and your family will eat the scraps of food you can afford. Your world is small, but it's your world. Or at least, it feels that way until the next reminder comes, the next indication that you are forever at the mercy of forces far beyond your control. But the middle class, that is a different story. You've seen them, walking with a different sort of air about them. Their clothes clean and pressed, their faces composed and polite. They navigate the same streets as you, but they move through the world with a confidence that you can't help but notice. The middle class is a curious group, caught between the working class and the aristocracy, always striving for something more, always aware of the fragile thread that separates them from either side. They have enough wealth to live comfortably, but they are always on the lookout for a way to climb higher, to secure their place among those who hold true power. You've overheard their conversations at social gatherings, at the few events you've managed to attend. They talk in careful tones, discussing everything from the latest fashions to the state of the economy, but the undercurrent of their words is always the same: survival. It's as though they walk a tightrope, carefully balancing between keeping up appearances and avoiding scandal, knowing that even the slightest misstep could send them tumbling into the working class, where survival becomes a much harder task. Their lives are about careful navigation, about presenting themselves in a way that will not invite scrutiny, not attract the attention of those who have more influence than they. At gatherings, you can see how they adjust their behavior, constantly aware of their actions, their words, their presence. The women are poised, their voices measured, their laughter controlled, as though they are always thinking 2 or 3 steps ahead, planning their next move in the game of social survival. The men, too, are careful, making connections, forming alliances with those who might help them in the future. Every handshake, every conversation is a potential opportunity to rise, to climb the ladder of social advancement, or at least to maintain their place on it. They understand the power of networking, of knowing the right people and being seen in the right places. They are constantly building their reputations, carefully cultivating an image of respectability and reliability that will serve them well when the opportunity for advancement arises. You've watched as they interact with one another, always polite, always smiling, but never too familiar, never too open. There's an underlying tension in the air, a sense that every word spoken, every gesture made, is part of a larger strategy, a plan that is constantly in motion. In their world, social advancement is key. The more people they know, the more connections they can make, the better their chances of securing their future. And yet, you see how the pressure wears on them, how they, too, are trapped by the expectations placed upon them. The middle class lives in a constant state of worry, always concerned with maintaining the facade, always trying to present the right image to the world. They are under pressure, just as much as the working class. But their struggles are more subtle, more insidious. Theirs is a life spent on the edge, always teetering between success and failure, always aware that one wrong move could send them crashing back down. As you reflect on your own position, you can't help but feel the divide between you and them. It's not just the wealth, the fine clothes, the polished manners that set you apart. It's the way they move through the world, with a sense of entitlement, with a belief that they belong, that they have a right to the life they lead. You wonder if they ever question it, if they ever wonder whether they deserve their place in the world, or if they simply accept it as their due. Theirs is a life built on appearances, on the constant maintenance of a delicate balance between privilege and acceptance. To them, scandal is the greatest threat, a threat that could bring everything crashing down. You can feel the pressure of it, the weight of the system that keeps you and them apart. You see it in their eyes, in the way they glance at you, as if measuring your worth in the brief moments they interact with you. They don't see you as a person, not really. To them, you are just another figure in the background, a servant to the system that has placed you where you are. You, the working class, are the foundation on which their lives are built, and yet you are invisible to them, unimportant except as a tool to be used in the ongoing struggle for social advancement. And yet, Despite it all, you can feel the faint stirrings of hope. There are whispers, rumors of opportunities, of ways to break free from this endless cycle. A few have made it those who have found the right connections, made the right moves, presented themselves in the right way. You have seen them rise, move from the working class to the middle class, from obscurity to prominence. It is a rare thing, but it is possible. Maybe one day, if the right doors open, if the right people take notice of you, you could be one of them. You could be free from the constant struggle, from the pressure to survive, from the weight of knowing that your future is not yours to shape. But for now, you continue, moving through your days with the knowledge that your place in the world is fixed, that the ladder of social mobility is one that is difficult to climb, and that every step you take will be scrutinized, judged, and weighed against the expectations of a world that is not made for you. As the day begins, you rise from your bed, your feet meeting the cool floor of your bedroom. The morning is still, the soft light creeping in through the curtains, casting gentle shadows on the room's austere furnishings. You know what today will bring the endless duties that come with being a woman of your station. There is no room for rest, no time for indulgence. Your role, one that has been passed down through generations of women before you, is clear. You are not merely a member of your family. You are the custodian of its reputation, the keeper of its order. It is you who will guide its future, who will ensure its place in society remains intact. The weight of that responsibility sits heavily on your shoulders as you begin your morning rituals. As you wash and dress, you think about the many expectations placed upon you, the unspoken but ever-present pressure to maintain a semblance of control, of grace, of perfection. The clothes you wear, carefully chosen for their modesty and elegance, are not just garments. They are a reflection of who you are, a statement of your position in a rigidly structured world, a world that demands compliance, that expects every woman to play her part in a grand, intricate dance of social order. You move with precision, your actions deliberate, as though every step you take is part of a performance. The world you inhabit is one where appearances matter more than substance, where behavior is scrutinized, judged, and weighed. To be a woman in this society is to exist in a delicate balance, one where every action, every word, every gesture must align with the rules set forth by those in power. It is a world that offers little room for deviation, for error, for personal desire. And yet, you understand that this is your role. You have been trained for it since you were a child, taught by your mother and your aunts, by the women of your family, how to uphold the family's name, how to manage the relationships that will shape your world. Your mother's voice echoes in your mind as you prepare for the day ahead. Remember, child, you must always behave with grace. The family's reputation is in your hands. You must never show weakness. Never let your emotions betray you. It is a lesson you learned well, one that you carry with you every day. For the family's reputation is a fragile thing. One slip, one careless action, and it could all unravel, sending everything into chaos. It is you, the women of the house, who must keep it together, who must hold the fabric of society intact. You must maintain the proper image, the correct behavior, the appropriate demeanor at all times. As you move through the day, your duties unfold with familiar ease. You manage the household, overseeing the staff, ensuring that the home runs smoothly, that everything is in its place. You are the unseen force behind the scenes, the one who ensures that all is well. Your hands are busy dusting, organizing, directing, but your mind is always calculating, always assessing. Who needs what? What does the family need from you today? What can you do to ensure that everyone stays in their place, that no one causes a stir, that no one disrupts the carefully maintained balance of the household? The role of women in maintaining the family's reputation extends beyond just the household. You are the social manager, the one who arranges the marriages, who ensures that alliances are formed, that relationships are cultivated with care and precision. You know that marriage is not just about love, but about securing status, about creating connections that will benefit the family for generations to come. It is through marriage that the future is secured, and it is you who must manage these relationships with skill and discretion. You spend hours every week making sure the appropriate matches are made, ensuring that the right people are invited to your home, that the family's name is always mentioned in the right circles. Your own marriage, though arranged by your parents, was no different. You did not marry for love. You married for security, for status, for the future of the family. Your husband, though a man of importance in his own right, is not the one who holds the power in the household. That power lies with you. You are the one who manages the relationships, who steers the family through the choppy waters of society's expectations. You are the one who ensures that the family remains in favor, who protects its name from scandal, who ensures that your children are raised to understand the importance of maintaining the family's place in the world. You think of your daughters, of the women you hope they will become. They, too, will one day carry the burden of maintaining the family's reputation, of managing their relationships with care, of ensuring that their marriages align with the family's interests. You have already begun teaching them the subtle arts of social maneuvering, showing them how to speak, how to smile, how to behave in such a way that no one ever doubts their propriety, their grace. They are learning, slowly, the weight of their role, the importance of their behavior. You do not say it out loud, but you know that one day they will take your place just as you took the place of your mother before you. As you prepare for the evening's social gathering, you can't help but feel the pressure mounting. Tonight's event is of particular importance, an evening dinner with influential guests, people who hold the power to shape the future of your family. You know that every glance, every word spoken, every smile exchanged will be scrutinized. The guests will be watching, analyzing, judging. It is not enough to simply be polite. You must be perfect. You must present yourself as the ideal hostess, the model of femininity, grace, and respectability. Your behavior must be impeccable, your manners refined. You will smile, laugh, converse, but all the while you will be calculating, analyzing, ensuring that no mistake is made. You stand before the mirror, adjusting your gown, ensuring that every detail is in place. The corset, the gloves, the perfect hair, every element of your appearance is an extension of your role, of your duty. There is no room for imperfection. You will present yourself as the epitome of Victorian femininity, a woman who is in control, who knows her place and never falters. You know that this is your responsibility. Your behavior is not just for your benefit. It is for the family's benefit, for its future, for its place in society. As you enter the grand hall for the evening's dinner, you can feel the weight of the expectations pressing down on you. The guests are already gathered, their voices rising in polite conversation, their eyes scanning the room for the most important person, the most influential person. It is your job to ensure that your family is seen in the right light, that they are respected, that their status is not questioned. You take a deep breath and step forward, your posture perfect, your smile serene. You greet the guests with warmth, but always with the right amount of distance. You know that this is the key. Always polite, always friendly, but never too familiar, never too open. Your role is to maintain the image, to ensure that no scandal arises, that no one steps out of line. As the evening unfolds, you move through the crowd with practiced ease, your every movement measured, your every word carefully chosen. You speak with the guests, listening to their stories, offering your own, but always with the understanding that this is a performance. You are not just a woman in the room. You are the embodiment of your family's reputation. Every smile, every laugh, every gesture you make is a reflection of the values you have been taught to uphold, the values that have been passed down through generations of women before you. The evening ends with the same precision it began. The guests leave, their conversations winding down into polite farewells. You stand in the doorway, watching them go, and you can't help but feel the quiet exhaustion that follows such an event. But it is not a weariness of the body. It is the mental strain of maintaining your role, of ensuring that nothing went wrong, that everything was as it should be. As you retire to your chambers, you reflect on the evening, knowing that it was successful, knowing that the family's reputation is intact for now. You lie in bed, the weight of the day settling into your bones, and you realize that tomorrow will be much the same. Another day of carefully navigating the world, of ensuring that no scandal arises, that the family remains above reproach. Your life is a delicate balance, a tightrope walk between social expectation and personal desire, between the demands of your role and the quiet yearnings for something more. But for now, you know that your duty is clear. You are the keeper of the family's honor, the custodian of its place in the world, and you will continue to carry that responsibility day after day, without question, without complaint, for that is the role you were born to play. The sun has just begun to rise, casting a faint golden light through the narrow windows of the servants' quarters. You stir from your small cot, feeling the familiar ache of a body worn from years of unrelenting work. The room is cramped, the air damp, but it is your space, small and modest as it is. You've learned to make do, to find comfort in the simplest of things. The rhythm of the day is already starting to take shape in your mind, the tasks, the duties, the countless small movements that will fill the hours ahead. But there's something more to it, something that has always been there, unspoken yet ever present. You are not just a servant, not just someone who works tirelessly to keep the household running. You are also the eyes and ears of the house, a silent observer of everything that happens in the grand rooms above. You begin your morning routine, moving swiftly through the narrow corridors, your feet light on the worn floorboards. The mansion is still quiet, the family not yet awake, and it's in these moments of stillness that you feel the pulse of the house the most. There is an odd serenity in it, a quiet hum of life waiting to begin. You know the layout of the house like the back of your hand. Every hallway, every door, every corner. You know where each family member spends their time, what they like, and what they fear. You have watched them, listened to their whispered conversations, seen the way they move through the world. It's not just the labor you perform that gives you access to this world. It is your position in the household, your role as an invisible presence that allows you to slip in and out of the rooms where the true drama unfolds. The first task of the day is always breakfast, preparing the food, setting the table, ensuring that everything is just right. As you move through the kitchen, the smells of freshly baked bread and brewing coffee fill the air. You are aware of the subtle shift in the atmosphere as the family begins to stir, as the first members make their way down to the dining room. You know who will appear first, Lady Eleanor, always the early riser, who values a quiet breakfast alone before the noise of the day begins. She has her rituals, just as everyone else does, and you've learned to read them over the years. You see her walk down the hallway, her footsteps deliberate, her posture perfect, as though she were gliding through air rather than walking on the ground. You can already tell she's in a particular mood by the way she holds herself, tense, controlled, perhaps a little weary. The world of her family is often one of great tension, and it's in these moments, when she thinks she is alone with her thoughts, that you see the cracks in her composure. She'll sit down at the table, accept her tea, and the first few words exchanged will be polite, clipped, and carefully measured. There's a momentary pause, just a brief flicker of vulnerability before she closes off again, as though she is acutely aware of your presence, even if she doesn't acknowledge it directly. You can almost feel the weight of her thoughts pressing down on her, the responsibility of maintaining her family's reputation, of keeping up appearances in a world that demands perfection. But you don't just watch her. You watch them all, her husband, Lord Ashton, who seems perpetually preoccupied with his business affairs, his mind always miles away from the dinner table. He has a tendency to let his guard down when he's alone, though, and you've caught him in those rare moments of solitude, when his facade cracks and the weight of his responsibilities is laid bare. There's something about him, something elusive, something beneath the surface that you've always sensed but never fully understood. And then there's young Thomas, their son, whose energy always seems out of place in the stiff formality of the house. He's restless, curious, and prone to slipping away from his lessons, searching for moments of freedom in the corners of the estate. You know them all, not just through the work you do, but through the things you overhear, the glances you catch, the murmurs that spill from their lips when they think no one is around. You are, in a sense, a shadow in the house, always there, always watching, never truly seen. And it's not just the family that you observe. The other servants, too, are part of the web you navigate each day. You listen to their chatter, their gossip, the way they discuss the family's behavior when they think no one is listening. Their words are a currency, a form of currency that is far more valuable than gold. In this world of invisible labor, where your actions are taken for granted, where your presence is often unnoticed, the words you overhear, the secrets you learn, become your power. The undercurrents of family life play out in whispered conversations behind closed doors, and you are often the only one who hears them. You know, for example, that Lady Eleanor is struggling with something, though she would never admit it aloud. You know about her strained relationship with her husband, how they speak to each other with formal politeness but rarely with affection. You know about the financial troubles that Lord Ashton tries to keep hidden from his peers, the cracks in the empire he has built that he's desperately trying to keep from showing. You know that young Thomas is being groomed to take over the family business, but that his heart isn't in it. His mind is far too adventurous for the rigid expectations his father has for him. These little insights, these pieces of knowledge, are the fabric of your world, the things that keep you attuned to the pulse of the house. As the day goes on, the household comes to life in its usual rhythm, the servants moving through their tasks, each one taking their place in the ever-turning wheel of the estate. You perform your duties without complaint, never forgetting your role as a silent observer, an invisible thread connecting all the disparate elements of the household. You have learned how to listen, how to watch, how to discern the hidden messages in the way people speak, in the way they move, in the things they leave unsaid. There's an art to it, a subtlety that only time and experience can teach. In the evenings, when the house has quieted down and the family retires to their quarters, you gather with the other servants in the kitchen. This is when the real exchange of information happens, when the day's events are dissected, when secrets are shared, and when alliances are formed. The women in the kitchen are especially skilled at reading the family dynamics, noticing the small gestures, the subtle shifts in behavior that speak volumes about what is happening in the drawing rooms and the study. You are always careful in these moments, careful not to reveal too much of what you know, for knowledge in this world is power, and power must be wielded with caution. But you can't help but share the things you've overheard, the things you've learned. The rumors and whispers circulate quickly, and by the end of the evening, you know everything about the family's secrets, their struggles, their ambitions, and their fears. You have become something of a silent intelligence network. Your knowledge of the household's inner workings, a currency that is traded, bartered, and sometimes used to your advantage. But there's a price to it, too. The more you know, the more you become entangled in the web of secrets that holds the house together. You find yourself caught between worlds, never fully a part of the family, but never fully separate from them either. You are both inside and outside, a witness to everything that transpires, but never truly seen, never truly acknowledged. You've often wondered how it would feel to be on the other side, to be a part of the family rather than the servant who watches it from the edges. But that is not your place, not your role. You know your position in the world, and you accept it. In the end, it is your knowledge that gives you power, your ability to navigate the unspoken currents of the household that keeps you one step ahead. You are the eyes and ears of the house, the silent observer whose observations shape the future of the family in ways they can never fully comprehend. As the night draws to a close and you make your way back to your small room, you feel the weight of the day lifting off your shoulders. Tomorrow will bring more of the same, the tasks, the duties, the silent watching. But for now, you rest, knowing that you are the keeper of the house's secrets, the guardian of its unseen truths. And in this world, that is a power few others possess. The clock on the mantelpiece ticks steadily, each second marking another beat in the unrelenting rhythm of your life. You sit in the parlor, the soft glow of the fire illuminating the room's austere elegance. Outside, the cold winds of winter blow against the windows, the storm pressing in from all sides. Inside, there is a different kind of tension, one that lies heavy in the air, woven into every corner of the room. It is not the wind that brings this chill, it is the weight of expectation, the pressure that has been placed upon you, day after day, year after year. You are not a child anymore. The years have passed swiftly, too swiftly, and now you stand on the precipice of a future that will be shaped not by your desires or your dreams, but by a decision you have no power to make alone. The time for youth and freedom has long since passed, and now you find yourself caught in the web of Victorian society's expectations, where the act of marriage is not a personal choice but a social transaction, a business deal wrapped in the trappings of romance. You glance down at your hands, clasped neatly in your lap. The rings you wear, simple yet elegant, are a reflection of your family's standing, of the status they have worked tirelessly to maintain. They are not mere accessories. They are symbols of your place in the world, of the legacy you are expected to uphold. You have been groomed for this moment since you were a child, taught the art of conversation, the rules of behavior, the subtleties of social interaction that will one day serve you well or perhaps, as you have begun to fear, fail you entirely. In the next room, your mother's voice rises in gentle but insistent conversation with Lady Farnsworth, the widow who has become something of a matchmaker in your social circle. You have overheard their discussions more than once, heard the way Lady Farnsworth's voice dips into that persuasive tone, one that always seems to carry the promise of a future you know you cannot escape. The talk, as always, turns to your future. You are the subject, though you are not present, and in their words, you sense both an undeniable affection for you as a daughter of their circle and a deeper, unspoken calculation, an understanding that your future is no longer about the sweet hopes of personal happiness, but about the more pressing matter of a good match. You cannot escape it. The pressure to marry well, to secure your place in society through a man who has wealth, land, and title, is constant, relentless. Your family's name depends on it. Your security, your future, depends on it. You think of the other young women in your circle, Eliza, Anne, Georgina, all moving through their days with the same weariness, the same strained smile that conceals the truth. Their futures are not their own. They, too, are caught in this intricate dance, one where the only way forward is to please the right people, to attract the right suitor. The marriage market is a game with no room for mistakes, no margin for error. And yet, there is a part of you, a small, quiet voice that rises from time to time that wonders what it would be like to marry for love, to choose for yourself, to feel the spark of true affection that society dismisses as frivolous. But such thoughts are dangerous, and you push them away, buried beneath the weight of your duties, beneath the knowledge that your place in this world has already been mapped out for you. You are a woman, and that, above all else, defines your path. The rules of courtship are as rigid as the structure of the family itself. They have been set down for generations, passed along like an inheritance that cannot be refused. Your actions must be measured, your behavior impeccable. You must be gentle, but never too soft. You must be approachable, but never too forward. You must appear interested in a man's conversation, but never too eager. The dance of courtship is a careful one, a delicate balancing act, where every glance, every word, every smile could either pull you closer to the life you are supposed to lead or push you further away from it. It is not about you as a person, it is about what you represent, what you bring to the table. A good match is one that aligns families, strengthens ties, and maintains the delicate balance of status and wealth. There is no room for passion, for affection, not in the way that books or plays would have you believe. You have been taught that marriage is a means to an end, a way to secure your place in society, to ensure that you are never left vulnerable, never left without support. Your mother's voice cuts through your thoughts as she enters the room, her presence commanding, her eyes sharp with purpose. "You must be ready, my dear," she says, her tone warm but firm, like that of a teacher guiding her student. "Lord Hargrove will be at the ball this evening. You must show him your best manners, your best smile. You know how important it is. This is your future, and you must present yourself well." She moves to adjust your gown, her hands deft and practiced, as though she has done this 1,000 times before. You nod, the familiar sense of duty washing over you, mingled with a growing sense of dread. Lord Hargrove, a man of considerable wealth and an even more considerable reputation, has already been mentioned in the same breath as your name more than once. He is one of the suitors, one of the men your mother believes will be the key to securing your future. You know what this means. You know what it would mean for your family if you were to marry him. Security, respectability, stability, these things, above all, are what they value. Your own happiness is secondary. As the evening arrives, you find yourself standing in front of the full-length mirror, adjusting your hair, checking your posture, rehearsing the words that will pass your lips. You cannot afford to be anything less than perfect. You must show that you are worthy of the match they have in mind for you. You must impress. It is not just about attracting Lord Hargrove, it is about securing your family's place, your own future. The ballroom is magnificent, the flickering candles casting long shadows on the walls, the sound of soft music and polite conversation filling the space. You glide into the room, your gown trailing behind you like a whisper of silk, and you feel the eyes of the guests upon you. They are all watching, all waiting to see if you will succeed in this delicate, dangerous game. Lord Hargrove is already there, standing with his back to the room, conversing with a few of the other men. You can see him, the way he carries himself, the way his presence demands attention, even without a word. He is everything that your mother has promised, everything that society expects of a good match. As you approach, the conversation halts, and you feel the weight of every gaze on you. Lord Hargrove turns to face you, his expression polite, guarded. He extends his hand, and you take it, your fingers light against his, careful not to show too much eagerness. You exchange pleasantries, the words coming easily, rehearsed, as though they have been scripted for you. He smiles, and you wonder for a fleeting moment if there is anything behind that smile, anything that would make him more than just a man with a title and a fortune. But you quickly dismiss the thought. It doesn't matter. None of this matters. The evening unfolds in a haze of conversation, dance, and carefully managed glances. You speak to him, of course, but there is no connection between you and Lord Hargrove. No spark, no warmth. He is a good match, a perfect match, but he is not the one you dream of. Yet, you play your part. You smile, you laugh, you listen. You manage the delicate balancing act that is courtship in this world, where every move must be calculated, every word measured. You are a prize to be won, a piece of property to be claimed. The ball ends, the guests depart, and you are left alone with your thoughts. The weight of the evening lingers in your mind. The pressure to succeed, to secure your future, to please your family, all hanging over you. You know that tomorrow will bring more of the same. The same expectations, the same routine, the same performance. But you also know the truth that in this world, marriage is not about love. It is about survival. It is about securing your place in a world that demands perfection and compliance, where the choices you make are never really yours to make at all. And so, you return to your room, to the solitude of your thoughts. You wonder if, one day, there might be room for something else, something beyond duty, beyond expectations, beyond the carefully controlled facade you are expected to wear. But you know that day is far away. For now, you must play the role, smile the smile, and secure your future through the one thing that society values above all else: marriage. You wake early, as you always do, the sound of the bell signaling the beginning of another day. The room is quiet, the dim light of dawn slipping through the narrow window, casting long shadows on the walls. You rise from your bed, stretching your stiff limbs, feeling the familiar ache of long hours spent standing, working, enduring. The house is still, save for the soft sounds of other servants beginning their daily routines. Your movements are instinctual, familiar, dressing quickly in the stiff uniform, tying your apron, securing your hair in the neat, simple style that is expected of you. There is no time for vanity, no time for anything beyond the duties that await. You move through the hallways of the house, your feet soundless on the floor, the wooden planks worn smooth by years of use. The house is large, cold, and unfamiliar in its stillness. The family you serve is still asleep, tucked away in their comfortable rooms, free to spend their days as they choose, unburdened by the restrictions that govern your every move. You, however, are not free. You never have been, not really. Your freedom was never truly yours to begin with. The house hums with a quiet order, a carefully maintained structure that reflects the broader world outside. The family occupies the upper floors, living in comfort and luxury, their every need attended to by the army of servants who move through their lives with quiet precision. You belong to that army, a cog in the machine, and your place is clear. The boundaries between you and them are not just physical. They are invisible, but just as unyielding. Your every action, every word, every gesture is governed by the rules of your station, by the strict codes of behavior that keep the world in its place. You are not allowed to step beyond your role, not allowed to speak unless spoken to, not allowed to make decisions for yourself. You are a servant, and in this world, your freedom is a luxury you cannot afford. As the day progresses, you move through your duties, your hands busy, your mind distant. You set the table, you clean the rooms, you prepare the meals, all while knowing that your actions are closely watched. Every movement you make, every step you take, is part of a performance, one that must be executed flawlessly. You cannot afford to make mistakes, to show any sign of weakness. The eyes of the family, though not always directly upon you, are always there, measuring, evaluating. Your place in this world is defined by your ability to follow the rules, to serve without question, to remain invisible. It is a constant vigilance, this life of service. You must be aware at all times of your behavior, of how you speak, of how you stand, of how you interact with others, to act out of turn, to display any sort of personality, any kind of individuality, is to risk drawing attention to yourself in ways that are dangerous. To be noticed is to be scrutinized, to be judged, and in a world so bound by rigid social structures, to be judged is to invite punishment. The invisible line between servant and master is not just a matter of class, it is a matter of behavior, of knowing your place and never stepping beyond it. But it is not just the servants who feel this weight. The women of the household, too, are bound by the same constraints, though their lives are governed by different rules. You observe them from your place in the kitchen, watching as they move through their day with the same precision, the same quiet grace. Their beauty, their elegance, is not just for show, it is a duty, a responsibility they bear with grace. To be a woman in this world is to be defined by what you are allowed to do, by the strict limits placed on your actions. The rules are clear. A woman's behavior must be flawless, her movements restrained, her words carefully measured. She must smile, but never laugh too loudly. She must be polite, but never too forward. She must be graceful, but never too bold. The women are allowed to walk freely through the house, to speak with the men and guests, but always within the confines of their role. They are never truly free to be themselves, to act on their own desires, to live as they wish. They are bound by the expectations of society, by the constant need to maintain appearances. A woman who speaks out of turn, a woman who acts too independently, risks losing her place, her reputation, her security. You know this, and you see it in the eyes of the women as they move through their daily lives, those fleeting moments of longing, of frustration, of the unspoken desire to be something more than what society allows them to be. But they dare not voice it. They dare not step outside the lines drawn for them. And yet, there are those moments when you see it, when you catch a glimpse of something else beneath the surface. Their beauty, their elegance, is not just for show, it is a duty, a responsibility they bear with grace. To be a woman in this world is to be defined by what you are allowed to do, by the strict limits placed on your actions. The rules are clear. A woman's behavior must be flawless, her movements restrained, her words carefully measured. She must smile, but never laugh too loudly. She must be polite, but never too forward. She must be graceful, but never too bold. It is in the quiet conversations between the women in the kitchen, the whispered confessions about their hopes, their fears, their desires for a different life. It is in the way they stand together, their shoulders slumped from the weight of their duties, but their eyes gleaming with something else, something more than resignation. They, too, long for a world where they are not bound by rules, where they are free to choose, to speak, to live as they wish. But while the men are allowed certain freedoms, freedom to work, to make decisions, to lead their lives too, are governed by the expectations of their class. The world demands that they provide, that they lead, that they protect. But within the confines of those roles, they too are restricted. They are not allowed to show weakness, to show emotion, to falter. A man who does so risks losing everything: his respect, his position, his future. In a world that demands strength and power, vulnerability is a dangerous thing. You move through the house, your body tired from the endless work, but your mind sharp, always alert to the subtle shifts in the atmosphere. You see the way the family moves through the day, the unspoken rules they follow, the careful balance they maintain between propriety and desire. You can sense the tension in the air, the weight of unspoken truths, the quiet rebellions that simmer just beneath the surface. But it is all kept hidden, locked away in the private spaces of the home, where no one can see. And you, in your role, are the keeper of those secrets, the silent observer who knows the truth but is not allowed to speak it. It is an exhausting life, this one of constant vigilance. You are always aware, always alert, always conscious of the rules that govern your actions. You know your place, and you know that to stray from it is to risk everything. But there are moments, small and fleeting, when you catch a glimpse of something else, something beyond the restrictions, beyond the roles. It is in the quiet moments when you are alone, when you can breathe without the weight of expectation pressing down on you. It is in the brief moments of freedom, the small acts of rebellion that no one notices but you. And yet, the world you live in is unyielding, unrelenting. The rules are clear, and they cannot be broken. The line between what is acceptable and what is not is drawn so firmly that to cross it is to risk everything. The family, the servants, the women, the men, none of them are truly free. They are all bound by the same constraints, the same societal expectations, the same invisible chains that bind them to a life they did not choose, a life they cannot escape. You know that you will spend your days in this unyielding world, always aware of the rules, always aware of your place. And yet, you also know that somewhere deep inside, there is a longing for something more, a longing for the freedom to be, to choose, to live without the weight of expectation pressing down on you. But for now, you put those thoughts aside, as you always do. The family will be awake soon, and your duties await. The house will continue to run as it always has. The roles will continue to be played, and the world will continue to turn, ever bound by the constraints of society. And you, the silent observer, the keeper of secrets, will remain in your place, moving through the day, with the quiet knowledge that you are not truly free, but that you understand the world in a way that few ever will. The house is still as you stand in front of the large mirror, your reflection gazing back at you with the same careful composure that you've practiced for years. The silence of the room is broken only by the soft crackling of the fire, the low hum of the evening settling in. Outside, the world moves forward full of noise, of opportunity, of the ever-changing tides of society. But inside, within the walls of this house, everything is calculated, deliberate, and precise. Every moment has been prepared for, every detail thought through, and every word measured. It is not merely a house you live in, it is a fortress, a carefully constructed system that exists to uphold the reputation, the position, and the future of your family. You pull at the lace of your dress, adjusting the fabric so it falls perfectly, as it should. Every detail of your attire has been chosen with care, not for personal preference, but to reflect the standing your family must maintain. Your mother's voice echoes in your mind as she often reminds you, your appearance is not just your own, it is the family's. It is something you have been taught since childhood, that your value, your worth, your very identity is tied to the family name. Every action you take, every gesture you make, is a reflection of the family's position in the social hierarchy. You are, in essence, the product of those who came before you, an extension of their choices, their sacrifices, and their triumphs. Tonight, the evening will unfold as it always does: polite conversation, calculated laughter, and the exchange of pleasantries with the influential families that your parents have worked so hard to align with. The dinner will be attended by those who matter, who carry the weight of status, wealth, and influence. And you will play your part just as you have been taught. You will move through the evening like a delicate figure in a grand dance. A dance where the stakes are high and the consequences of a misstep far too great to bear. As you descend the staircase, you can already hear the voices of the guests, their words rising and falling in a blend of gossip and business. Your parents are already mingling, exchanging pleasantries with the other families, subtly measuring, subtly probing for new opportunities, new connections. You can see the way your father, ever the strategist, speaks with the men, his posture slightly forward, his eyes sharp with the hunger for influence. The talk is not about idle matters. It is about alliances, about business, about connections that will ensure the family's standing for another generation. You know that his mind is not fully present in the conversation at hand. Instead, it is working on a dozen unspoken calculations, trying to discern the next best match for your family. And then, as if by instinct, you feel the tension rise within you. The eyes of the room turn to you, as they always do when you enter. Your mother watches closely, her gaze sharp, a quiet reminder of the expectations placed upon you. You must be flawless. You must smile, engage, and interact with the same grace and dignity that your family demands. There can be no slip, no sign of weakness, no misstep that could damage the family's reputation. This is not just a social gathering, it is a moment of opportunity, one where futures are shaped and decisions are made. Your marriage, your alliances, your position in society, everything will be influenced by how you behave tonight. As the evening progresses, you find yourself swept up in the familiar rhythm of social interaction. You smile politely, nod at the right moments, and engage in the conversations that are meant to solidify your family's position in the social order. The women, with their delicate faces and whispered words, are always the most calculating in these settings. You overhear snippets of conversation about marriages, who is courting whom, who has made a successful match, and who has been left behind. The words are not spoken with malice, but with the same calculated precision that marks the social maneuvering of this world. You know that, for the women in this room, every word, every glance, every action carries weight. They, too, are part of the intricate web of alliances that sustain the family status. You see Lady Elizabeth across the room, her posture perfect as always, her laughter light, but you can sense the tension in her smile. She too is playing the game, weighing her options, measuring the future of her daughters. You have known her for years, and you know that beneath the surface of politeness, beneath the perfect composure, there is a woman who understands the power of marriage, of alliances, perhaps better than anyone. Her daughters have been trained to behave just as you have been, carefully, gracefully, always aware of the role they must play in maintaining the family's place in society. You, and women like you, are bound by the same rule. You are not just women. You are the embodiment of your family's future. As the night wears on, you find yourself drawn into a conversation with Lord Westbrook, an influential man in the city whose fortune has brought him into the highest circles. He speaks with charm, his words flowing effortlessly as he probes you, not just for small talk, but for a glimpse into your family's standing. His eyes flicker with interest as you speak, but you know better than to reveal too much. His interest is not in you as a person, but in what you represent, a well-connected, respectable family that can offer him something in return. You play your part, your answers measured, your smile warm but distant, as you sense his mind already working through the possibilities. It is here, in these quiet, calculated moments, that the future is shaped. It is here that families maneuver, arranging marriages not for love, but for status, security, and the perpetuation of wealth. You are aware of the game, but you cannot escape it. To do so would be unthinkable, a breach of the rules that have been drilled into you since childhood. You have learned that the family's name is everything, that it is not just a name, but a powerful force that determines your worth, your place in society, and your future. The evening draws to a close, and you retreat to the drawing room, your mind still reeling from the subtle exchanges that have taken place. You know that your parents are already at work behind the scenes, calculating the next step, the next alliance, the next move that will secure the family's future. Your role in all of this is clear, even if it is not always comfortable. You must maintain the family's name, you must marry well, and you must continue to play your part in this world of social maneuvering. You reflect on the conversations of the evening, the subtle signals that have been exchanged, the weight of each word spoken. Your mother's voice comes to you again, a reminder of what you have been taught. Marriage is more than just love, my dear. It is the key to the family's future. It is the key to everything. You nod silently, the words echoing in your mind. They are the words of your world, the world that has shaped you, the world that defines you. The next morning, the routine resumes as always. The family will go about their business, and you will continue to navigate the expectations that have been placed upon you. You will continue to smile, to engage, to play your part in the social dance that is your life. The world outside may change, but inside this house, within these walls, the rules remain the same. And as long as the family's name is upheld, as long as the right alliances are formed and the right marriages are secured, the future will be secure. But for you, the question remains, how much of yourself will you lose in the process? How much of your own desires, your own dreams, will you be willing to sacrifice for the sake of the family's future? And in the end, when the dust has settled and the alliances have been made, what will be left of you? The thought lingers, but it is quickly pushed aside. For you know that in this world, the role you play is more important than the person you are. And as long as the family's place in society is assured, that is all that matters. The clock strikes 7. Its chimes cutting through the silence of the room like a reminder of what must come. You rise from your bed, stretching your limbs, feeling the familiar ache in your back from the hours spent maintaining perfect posture the day before. The air is cool, the light from the early morning sun creeping through the curtains, casting a faint glow on the polished floors and carefully arranged furniture. This is your world, one where every detail has been considered, every moment calculated, and yet, in the midst of it all, you can't shake the weight that presses down on your chest. You begin the familiar routine slowly, deliberately, as though every step you take is part of a performance. Your fingers move to your dress, pulling at the laces of your corset, tightening them carefully, feeling the constriction around your ribs. The sensation is as familiar as your own skin, but that doesn't make it any easier. Every breath you take is shallow, restricted by the tightness of the fabric. And yet, this is the price you must pay. The corset is not just an article of clothing. It is a symbol of your virtue, your respectability, and your place in society. You are expected to wear it, to endure it, and to smile through the discomfort. You glance at your reflection in the mirror, adjusting the lace of your gown, checking the placement of your gloves, smoothing down the fabric as though each wrinkle could be a sign of weakness, a misstep in your appearance. You know that the smallest deviation from perfection will be noticed. Your appearance is not just yours, it is the outward manifestation of your family's respectability, of your worth as a woman. To appear anything less than perfect is to risk being seen as flawed, as imperfect. In this world, perfection is not a choice. It is a necessity. And that necessity presses down on you, day after day, like the tight laces of the corset that you can never quite loosen. You move through the house, your steps measured, your back straight. The house feels quiet, but you know the eyes of those around you are always watching, always assessing. You are not just a daughter of your family. You are a representation of its values, its reputation, and the weight of that responsibility never leaves you. Every word you speak, every glance you exchange must be perfect. Any sign of emotional expression, any hint of instability, will be met with raised eyebrows, whispered conversations, and the threat of scandal. You hear your mother's voice calling from the other room, her tone light, but there is always an undercurrent of expectation in her words. Come, my dear, the guests will arrive soon. Let's ensure everything is in place. Remember, behave with grace. Grace, such a simple word, yet it carries so much weight. You nod, as you always do, understanding exactly what she means. Grace is not just an attitude, it is a skill, one that must be honed and perfected over time. It is about maintaining composure, never letting the world see the cracks, the doubts, the discomfort that lives just beneath the surface. As you enter the parlor, the grand room is bathed in soft candlelight, the floorboards gleaming from the countless hours spent polishing, the furniture positioned just so. You can hear the faint murmur of voices, guests, your father, perhaps a few distant relatives, all mingling in their own world, unaware of the invisible burden you carry. The air is thick with expectation, the subtle pressures of behavior, of conversation, of interaction. You take a deep breath, steadying yourself. You know what is expected of you. You know that you must move through the evening like a ghost, polite but never too familiar, charming but never too forward. You are a carefully constructed image, one that must be upheld at all costs. The guests arrive, ladies in elegant gowns, men in finely pressed suits, and the room fills with the hum of polite conversation, of small talk, of gestures that carry 1,000 meanings. As you move through the gathering, your smile never falters, your posture never slouches. You engage in conversation, your words carefully chosen, never too revealing, never too bold. You laugh in just the right moments, tilt your head with the right amount of interest, nod at the right times. You are the perfect hostess, a paragon of virtue, of grace, of composure. But beneath the surface, you feel the strain. The constant vigilance required to maintain this facade is exhausting. Every word you speak is measured. Every glance you make is calculated. You are constantly aware of the expectations that surround you, the pressure to be perfect, to be flawless, to never let your true emotions surface. It is a performance, one that requires all of your energy, all of your attention, and yet it is never enough. You know that even the slightest misstep could result in a ripple, small at first, but enough to draw the attention of the wrong people, enough to raise questions that could ruin your reputation, your family's name. As you watch the guests around you, you see the way they interact with each other, the way they move through the room, all while maintaining the same veneer of politeness, the same mask of civility. They are all performing, all trying to uphold the same set of rules. No one dares to step outside the lines. No one dares to reveal the true nature of their thoughts, their desires, their frustrations. It is a world where silence reigns, where emotions are hidden behind carefully crafted smiles and measured gestures. To show anything else would be to risk scandal, to risk losing everything. The evening continues, each moment passing with the same sense of calculated composure. Your father, the head of the household, moves through the room, exchanging pleasantries, laughing in just the right places, all while keeping an eye on the social dynamics that are constantly shifting. He is always aware of the unspoken rules, always monitoring the room for any signs of discontent, any whispers of scandal. You know that his world, like yours, is built on appearances, on the careful maintenance of social standing, and you, as his daughter, are a part of that structure. Your behavior, your marriage prospects, your very existence are all part of the equation. To falter would be to tear down the delicate fabric of the family's reputation. As the night progresses, you feel the familiar ache of exhaustion begin to settle into your bones. The constant vigilance, the endless measuring of your actions has taken its toll. Your back aches from the hours of standing. Your face feels stiff from the forced smiles. Your mind is weary from the constant strain of maintaining the perfect image. And yet, there is no rest. There is no reprieve. You must continue. You must keep the mask in place, keep the performance going. For if you do not, everything will crumble. Your family's reputation, your future, everything you have worked for, everything they have worked for, depends on your ability to uphold the standards they have set for you. The night draws to a close, and the guests begin to leave, offering polite goodbyes and expressions of gratitude. You smile, you nod, you thank them for their presence, but inside, you are already drained, already longing for the moment when you can finally retreat to your room, to the quiet, to the stillness where you can let go of the facade, even if just for a moment. But even in that moment, there is a sense of guilt, a sense of failure. You know that you have done well tonight, but the pressure, the weight of conformity will always be there. It will always be a part of your life, always a part of who you are. No matter how hard you try to escape it, you return to your room, the door closing softly behind you, and for the first time in hours, you allow yourself to breathe. The corset, the gown, the tightness that has constricted your body all evening, finally, you release them, one by one. But even as you shed the physical discomfort, you know that the emotional strain, the burden of conformity, will linger. It will always linger, pressing on your chest, reminding you of the expectations that never quite leave. As you lie in bed, the weight of the evening settling in your mind, you wonder just for a fleeting moment what it would be like to live without the constant pressure, without the suffocating need to conform, to perform. What would it be like to be free from the chains of expectation, to be truly yourself, without fear of judgment, without the weight of your family's name hanging over you? But you know that such freedom is a luxury you cannot afford. In this world, conformity is survival. And so, you close your eyes, surrendering to the exhaustion, knowing that tomorrow will bring more of the same performance, the same expectations, the same burdens to bear. The cycle never ends, and you, as always, must carry it. The morning light creeps through the cracks of the curtains, a pale sliver that cuts across the floor of the room, throwing shadows on the cracked plaster walls. You lie still, staring at the ceiling, the weight of another day already pressing down on you. Your body feels heavy, as though each movement requires more effort than the last. The noise of the house gradually fills the space, footsteps in the hall, the creak of the stairs, the clattering of dishes as the kitchen comes to life. The sounds are familiar, like a distant echo of a life you've long since stopped questioning. There is no time to rest. You must rise and begin the cycle again, prepare the family's breakfast, tidy the rooms, polish the silver, all while maintaining the perfect mask of service and efficiency. There is no space for exhaustion, no room for the creeping weight in your chest that grows heavier with each passing day. There is no time for weakness. You rise, your body protesting with every movement. The corset, tightly laced, pulls at your ribs, constricting your breath as you step into your uniform. The weight of it feels like a physical manifestation of the burden you carry, of the expectations that weigh on you day after day. You cannot afford to show any sign of fatigue, not in front of the family, not in front of anyone. You know how it would look, how it would feel to be seen as anything other than perfectly capable. The family you serve doesn't understand fatigue, doesn't understand the toll that their expectations, their demands, take on you. To them, you are simply a servant, a piece of the machinery that keeps their world running smoothly. You are not meant to feel, not meant to struggle. You are meant to perform, to work tirelessly, to be invisible in your labor. But the exhaustion lingers, like a shadow that follows you wherever you go. The mental toll of the pressure to perform, to maintain the facade of efficiency, of perfection, is crushing. The hours stretch on, each task bleeding into the next, until the boundaries of your own identity begin to blur. You are no longer just you. You are a role, a function, a presence that exists only to serve the family's needs. The longer you remain in this cycle, the harder it becomes to remember what it was like before, what it was like to be anything other than a servant to the demands of those around you. As you move through the house, performing your duties with quiet precision, you can hear the conversations in the other rooms. The family, with their perfectly curated lives, their polished exteriors, are discussing matters that have no relevance to you. They speak of their next social engagement, their latest acquisitions, their plans for the future. They are unaware of the toll their world takes on those like you, those who are invisible to them, those who are expected to simply continue in their roles without question, without pause. The strain of maintaining your position, of living within the rigid boundaries set by your class, is not just physical, it is emotional, psychological. You can feel it every time you smile through the exhaustion, every time you answer a question with the proper tone, every time you bite back the frustration that rises in your chest. But it's not just the physical strain of your labor that wears on you. It's the emotional weight of being constantly aware of your place in the social hierarchy, constantly aware that you are being measured, judged, and found wanting. The family is always watching, always evaluating. They may not say it aloud, but you can see it in their eyes, in the way they move through the house, in the way they speak to you as though you are little more than an extension of the walls. a necessary part of the household that they can't quite be bothered to acknowledge as human. The disconnect is palpable. They live in a world of privilege and ease, where personal desires and emotional well-being are secondary to maintaining appearances and securing their place in society. You, on the other hand, have no such luxury. Your emotions, your desires, your well-being are not even considered. You are a tool, a means to an end. As the day draws on, you find yourself thinking about the women in the household. Lady Eleanor, the mistress of the house, moves through her day with the same air of composure that she always wears. But you can see the strain in her eyes, the tightness in her posture. She, too, is a prisoner of expectations. Though her burdens are different from yours, she is expected to maintain the household's reputation, to uphold her social standing, to manage the intricacies of her family's relationships. You've watched her closely over the years, seen the way she smiles, the way she speaks, the way she moves, always with the weight of the world on her shoulders. You can see the moments when her guard slips, when the exhaustion, the pressure, the isolation get to her. There are times when she retreats to her private chambers, her face tight with frustration, her shoulders slumped. She is, in many ways, like you, caught between duty and personal desire, expected to perform, to behave, to conform to the rigid roles that society has assigned to her. The women of the household, like the men, are trapped in the expectations of their class. Their marriages are not their own. Their desires are secondary to the needs of their family, and their behavior is always under scrutiny. You see how they move through their days, graceful, composed, perfect, but beneath the surface, you sense the emotional toll it takes on them. You know that they, too, are exhausted by the weight of the rules they must follow, by the burden of conforming to society's rigid expectations. And yet, they have little choice but to continue, to maintain the illusion of control, of composure. Because in this world, to show vulnerability, to show weakness, is to risk losing everything. You think of the mental strain, the emotional exhaustion that permeates every corner of this house. For you, it is the constant pressure to maintain your position, to uphold your role, to conform to the expectations of the family. For the women of the household, it is the unrelenting burden of maintaining their status, their virtue, their grace. For the men, it is the pressure to provide, to lead, to be the foundation on which everything else rests. Each one of them, though they may appear strong, may appear composed, is carrying a weight, a psychological burden that is unseen but no less real. And yet, there is no room for weakness. There is no space for emotional release, for mental rest. In this world, to show signs of stress, of fatigue, of emotional turmoil, is to risk everything. The stigma surrounding mental health in the Victorian era is pervasive, especially for those in the lower social strata. The poor, the servants, those like you, are not allowed the luxury of emotional expression. To show that you are struggling is to invite judgment, to be seen as unfit, unworthy, weak. The idea of mental health, of taking time to care for your emotional well-being, is a concept that belongs to the wealthy, to those who can afford such luxuries. For you and those like you, survival is enough. The cost of survival, the toll it takes on your mental health, is something you are expected to bear in silence, without complaint. You wonder, sometimes, in quiet moments when you are alone, whether anyone would notice if you just stopped, if you just let go of the mask for a moment, if you showed what it really feels like to carry the weight of this life. But the thought is fleeting. You cannot afford such luxuries. There is too much at stake, too many eyes watching, too many expectations to meet. And so, you continue, as you always have, smiling through the fatigue, performing through the exhaustion. You tell yourself that it's not so bad, that you can endure, because that's what you've always done. But deep down, you know the truth, that the emotional toll, the mental strain, is real, and it will remain with you, silently wearing away at you, until the day comes when you can no longer carry it. The house grows quiet as the evening falls, the family retreating to their rooms, the staff cleaning up the remnants of the day. You are left alone in your thoughts, the quiet echo of the day's demands still ringing in your ears. You wonder briefly what it would be like to be free to escape the burden of conformity, to live outside the rigid boundaries of expectation. But you know that such freedom is a distant dream, one that you may never reach. For now, you will continue, moving through your life, performing the role you have been assigned, carrying the weight of it all without question, as you have always done. The evening settles into a quiet stillness as you sit by the fire, the soft crackle of the flames filling the room with a comforting warmth. The mansion, though empty of guests, still seems full of memories, full of rules, full of expectations. Outside the window, the world moves in a constant rush, unaware of the weight that still hangs in the air inside these walls. You take a deep breath, feeling the years of silent pressure pressing against your chest, an invisible force that has shaped your life, shaped your families, and, in many ways, still shapes the world around you. The world that you live in today is different, or at least it seems to be on the surface, but deep down, you know the truth. The norms, the expectations, the unspoken rules that govern the Victorian era, they are still here. They still linger, woven into the very fabric of society. As you sit in this room, you can't help but reflect on the past. You think of the women who came before you, your mother, your grandmother, your great-grandmother, all of whom carried the same weight, the same burdens. Their lives, like yours, were shaped by the rigid expectations of the Victorian world, where women were expected to be virtuous, quiet, and obedient. Their futures shaped not by their own desires, but by the marriages they made and the status they upheld. It was a world where personal freedom was a luxury, where social mobility was a rare gift, and where the weight of conformity was felt in every corner of life. The legacy of the Victorian era, you realize, is not just a thing of the past. It still exists today in the small, everyday expectations that govern our behavior, in the invisible lines drawn between people of different classes, in the way women are still sometimes expected to measure their worth by their roles within the family. The old rules may no longer be enforced with the same severity, but their echoes remain, just as present and insistent as they were back then. The way people still measure success by their family, their wealth, their appearance has its roots in a time when the rules of social advancement were rigidly defined and tightly controlled. The shift in societal expectations regarding women's roles, social mobility, and personal freedom may have been significant, but it has never fully erased the influence of the past. You think of how the role of women has evolved, of how women today are no longer confined to the same narrow definitions of femininity that once defined their worth. Yet, even now, there are still subtle ways in which the old norms continue to shape what women can and cannot do. The fight for equality, for the right to work, to choose, to speak freely, this fight is ongoing. Its roots deep in the soil of the Victorian era. The echoes of those old expectations still ripple through the lives of women today, even as they struggle to break free from them. Your own life is a testament to the long-lasting impact of those old rules. You may not be bound by a corset anymore, not physically at least, but the invisible strings that hold you in place, the societal pressures that whisper in your ear every day, are just as tight, just as suffocating. The choices you make, the things you do, are still measured against the expectations of those who came before you. And it's not just you, it's the women around you too. You can see it in their eyes, the weariness, the uncertainty. There is a part of them that still feels the weight of the past, even if they don't always recognize it. They too are living in the shadow of the Victorian world, struggling to navigate the spaces between tradition and change, between the freedom they long for and the constraints they have been taught to accept. You also think of the men in this world, those who still carry the weight of the old system, the men who have been taught that their value lies in their ability to lead, to provide, to control. The men who, like the women, are bound by the expectations of their families and their society, forced to conform to the roles set out for them, even if those roles no longer serve them. The expectation of strength, of stoicism, of success, these are the same expectations that govern the lives of Victorian men. They may no longer wear the same masks, but the pressure to perform, to live up to those ideals, still lingers in their lives. in the way they interact with the world. The world may have changed, but the foundations upon which it was built remain. As you sit by the fire, reflecting on all this, you realize just how deeply the Victorian era has shaped the world we live in today. The social structures that were so firmly established then may have been loosened, but they have never been fully dismantled. The system of class, the expectations placed upon women, the pressure to conform to social norms, these things still exist, albeit in different forms. The world may no longer look the same as it did in the Victorian era, but the echoes of that time can still be felt in the way we live, the way we interact, the way we measure success and worth. You think of how society has changed, how new movements and ideas have opened up possibilities for personal freedom, for self-expression, for equality. Women are no longer confined to the domestic sphere, and social mobility is no longer as rigidly restricted as it once was. But even as these changes have taken place, there are still battles to be fought. There are still spaces where women's voices are silenced, where their worth is still measured by outdated standards. There are still places where personal freedom is a luxury, where the weight of social expectations presses down on the shoulders of those who dare to break free. And yet, in this struggle for change, there is hope. The shift in societal expectations, while slow and uneven, is real. Women today have more opportunities, more freedom, more agency than they ever did before. They have the right to choose, to define themselves, to carve out their own place in the world. But the work is not done. The old rules are still present, still lingering in the background, still shaping the way society views women, the way they view themselves. The battle for true equality, for the right to live freely, to define one's own path, is still ongoing. As you sit in the quiet of the room, the fire now burning low, you reflect on how far society has come and how far it still has to go. The shift from the rigid norms of the Victorian era to the more open, dynamic world we live in today has been profound, but it is not without its challenges. The social structures that shaped your world, that shaped the world of those before you, still cast a long shadow. But the desire for freedom, for agency, for self-expression is stronger than ever. It is the spark that will continue to drive change, that will continue to break down the walls that have been built over centuries. You know that your life, your choices, are part of that change. You are living in a world that is still grappling with the weight of the past, but you are also part of the movement that is pushing forward, seeking a future where the chains of conformity no longer hold anyone back. It is not an easy path, and the echoes of the past will never be fully gone. But there is progress, and with it, the promise of a world where everyone, regardless of gender, class, or background, can have the freedom to be who they truly are. You stand up, feeling the warmth of the fire on your face, and look out the window. The night is still, but the world outside is always changing, always moving. And as you walk away from the hearth, you carry with you the knowledge that you are part of that movement, that change. A new world is being shaped, one that will one day look back on the past with the understanding that the power of social norms, the weight of societal expectations, is not eternal. It will break, just as it always has. And in the end, the freedom you long for, the freedom you fight for, will come.